Max Brody. And I'd like to introduce our next guest, Dr. Drumil Shah. So, Dr. Shah is a family physician and the Chief Information Officer at Compass Medical, an independent provider led organization in Southeast Massachusetts. His primary interests and focus areas are digital health innovation, data science and care analytics, health innovation and entrepreneurship, and life science technology commercialization. Dr. Shah provides a variety of consulting services to a myriad of companies around the world. And Dr. Shah completed his family medicine training at the New Jersey Medical School and subsequently graduated from the University of Illinois in Chicago, completing a postmaster's degree in health informatics. But without further ado, let's please give our full undivided attention to Dr. Shah.
Amazing journey for me being here today. This is my first experience speaking in front of a high school audience. I speak at many events throughout the country, but I had to call my 19-year-old cousin who is doing a double major in California, USC, healthcare and business, and ask him the question this morning: how do I present to high school kids? What do they really care about? The reason behind that is learning is an experience, right? That's what happens in life. The learning is an experience. When you get used to an experience, you like to repeat it, especially when it's enlightening. So this is a quote from Albert Einstein, which most of you are already familiar with. Learning is an experience. Everything else is just an information. So today, while I'm talking to you guys, I'm not going to give you any information because you guys already have access to more information than any one person can give you. Hopefully, I will tie it back to the message which I would like to give is education to experience is a journey. And I think as you saw from various speakers, from Vicky to Carsten to Ryan and Josh, that their experiences throughout their journey is something amazing. When I was at Russ's age or your age, I had no access to information you guys already have on your phone. And plus, I was in a country, India, where internet kind of came a little bit later. We still had those dial-up phones. Those are quite expensive nowadays. Anyway, so a little bit background about myself. I'm an MD by training. I'll go through few aspects of my journey because it's kind of going back to what Josh just mentioned. It will highlight my level of ADD pretty obviously, as you see the ventures I've gone through. And that's the idea behind chasing your passion. When you have a passion you are chasing, jumping from one aspect of your life to other aspect of the life, you are creating a success and a repeating success. So I work currently as my daytime job. These are my all current job responsibilities. I work as a Chief Medical Information Officer at a Compass Medical, which is a provider group. We are part of a larger healthcare entity called Steward Healthcare, which is the largest for-profit organization in the country now. But we are a small group, about 100 providers from Quincy to Middleborough and Taunton region. I also lead one of the non-for-profit global organizations, Boston chapter called SOAP, which stands for Society of Physician Entrepreneurs. I'm the leader at the Boston chapter. I'm also working as a cancer liaison physician at one of the local hospital, Good Samaritan, which you guys might be familiar with in Brockton. I also work as an advisor at one of the venture capitalists out of San Diego, Beverly Hills region, and also an investor in some of the startup and a board member at Compass Medical. This is my family. I live in Sharon right on Eisenhower Drive. My son, unfortunately, who's 10, he really wanted to make it today. And I had to have a nice talk with him this morning that unfortunately, because of the conflict he had with his baseball game, I said, Neil, it's your choice. Do you want to pick the game or a talk? The first he said he wants to come for a talk. But then as we chatted a little bit more about it, he did not want to come here because he does not want to not be there with his team for the game, which they have already been looking forward to winning. So that's a fun experience for me, my 5-year-old daughter and my wife Neha, who is in IT also. So what do I want to cover with you today? This is the agenda I thought and validated with my 19-year-old cousin. So I only have an N of 1 for validation, that which will probably relate to you guys, which is review my journey, hopefully with the caveat that it's limited to healthcare industry and an entrepreneurship. I do not have background in any other industry besides healthcare. Share some of the lessons I've learned during my journey and just give you a taste of an industry as it relates to healthcare and what opportunities and challenges are there which you might want to consider pursuing. And a future message, or a message for the future generation, which are you guys are. I used to believe myself, I want to go back, I used to believe myself as a millennial because technically I'm born in 1980. I do not relate to millennials. I'm a Gen X. As I learn more about what true millennials are, I'm an old guy. So having said that, let's go through the journey of healthcare as a provider. So at the end of the day, my educational background is MD, which started back in India, where I did middle school and engineering track. So I kind of did both engineering track as a middle school, and then in high school, somehow after graduating high school, went into the medical school, which is about, in India, it's about 6 to 8 years of journey, depending on how you complete the path. Right after 2003, I came here. I did my training in New Jersey as a family medicine general practitioner, primary care in New Jersey. 3 years later in New Jersey, got tired of being in a large metro city and thought of coming to a metro city which is still has that community feel rather than being in a concrete jungle, for a lack of a better term. So decided to come to Massachusetts, worked as a primary care physician, employed by a hospital for a couple of years. Then I started at Compass, where I work now, and I currently work 1 weekend a month in one of our walk-in urgent care facility. So that's my journey as a provider, a leadership journey. It started as being a physician who has some engineering background and who is passionate about, or thought who's passionate about technology. I started training the other physicians on how to use the technology and softwares we have to use in medical care. Then I started becoming the more and more involved with other providers, becoming the tips and tricks guy. That, Drew, can you give me a tip here and there? And then I decided, why don't I go back to school? Because education is the best way to empower yourself to create a new path you want to pursue. So I went back to school while I was practicing medicine, and I did postmasters in health informatics, which means statistics as it relates to health. So going back to the message, which I think it was Carsten gave, right? That statistics, the most important thing. In medical school, we did not learn anything about data or statistics. The world today is all about data. Data is going to set us free. The science is changing, how we research is changing, and how we interpret the research is changing all through the data. So that's why I went back to school for data. Then in my current role, I became one of the owner of the company and a board of director, then one of the physician executive CIO, and that's where my leadership journey is. Being an entrepreneur, and I will have a slide later on about what an entrepreneur means, because there is many definitions of entrepreneur. For the most part, entrepreneur means you don't have a job. That's what an entrepreneur perception is in the industry. In my eyes, entrepreneur is a person who is not afraid of taking risk. So that's the first definition of being an entrepreneur. So that journey for me relatively started a couple of years ago, 2016. I became a member of this Physician Entrepreneur Society. Felt like, no, I'm a physician. Let me figure out what physician entrepreneur means. So that's how my journey started. Then later on, behold, 1 year, you become part of the community. Someone says, will you do this? You say yes, and you became the leader of the Boston chapter. And what we do with the Boston chapter, being a non-for-profit, we bring multiple people under one room. We just had an event last month where we bring the investors, technologists, lawyers, physicians, all across the Boston ecosystem under one room for a few hours and talk about various disruptive ways we can help each other. At the end of the day, it's about one guy helping the other guy. That's the purpose or the mission of SOAP. Started my speaking career last year also. Now I speak roughly once a month or once every other month to have a work-life balance. The most important thing. Never underestimate the power of time running away from you. We all get same 24 hours in a day. Everything else can vary, but 24 hours in a day, we all get the same. Then became an expert at digital health, an advisory board member at VC, and investor. So that's now that since I shared my background about who I am, let's go over what I've learned. And this image should speak for itself. Anyone wants to take a guess? What does it say, guys? Healthcare. What does it say about healthcare? It's broken, right? The healthcare is massively broken. Every crisis has a new opportunity which comes out of it. National healthcare spending is at its highest. You guys probably may not know, but your parents know about all the bills they've been paying. And healthcare accounts for 17% of gross domestic product, GDP, of the country, which is quote unquote unsustainable, which I truly believe it is sustainable because as a society we have invested in the best healthcare system in the world, even though we are not ranked one of the best in the world because the data and metrics, how it's perceived who is the best, is changing. So I truly believe we are the best, but unfortunately, if you look at the other developed countries, UK being at the top of the outcome or quality ranking, and US is one of the bottom ranking developed country when it comes to the outcome. But it's all about data and the power of data. You can have data speak any story you want, and that's the power we have to get better at in our country. What else did I learn? We're all in this same boat. It does not help to be on the other side and point fingers at the others that you are the problem. So it doesn't help being a physician pointing the finger at the CEO, who points a finger at the hospital, who points a finger at the payer, who points a finger at the government, and comes back to the taxpayers. We are all in this together. We need to work together to get to where we need to be. And when you have a team, anything is possible. And speaking of team, I think Russ started this evening talking about team, and we've seen consistent theme from all the speakers about individual journey, but we would not be here without the team which supports us and the team which enables us. At the end of the day, team stands for together everyone achieves more. That's the culture what we believe at Compass where I work today. And this is the best code I use with my team. Coming together is just the beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is the success. And that's from Henry Ford. The other thing I learned, it's a matter of perspective. It might be 6 for me and 9 for you. And we have to appreciate the perspective from where we are standing. The perspective is not about the fact which you or I know. The fact is a fact. The best example I use is during the daytime, I can point a finger in the sky, hopefully on a sunny day, and tell my 5-year-old that look at the sun, it's right there. If I do the same thing at 11 o'clock at night, take my daughter outside and point a finger at the sky and tell, look at the sun, what will she think of me? That I'm lying, right? Am I lying? No, I know for the fact based on the longitude and latitude, the sun is right there. I just don't see it because I'm on the other side. So that's the perspective you always have to appreciate, being nice with your team. It's not about being the only person in your team which is the likable individual. It's about being humble and respectful to others and appreciating others' perspective, not necessarily agreeing with them. You don't have to agree with me at all, but to work with me, acknowledge and respect the perspective I bring on the table, whether it's 2 cents or 0.002 cents, and the CEO who thinks I have 100% knowledge what I need to run a multi-billion-dollar company. It doesn't matter. Great CEOs always brings their rank and file worker, which so-called the receptionist or the front supply chain worker, highest level of innovation. Innovation cannot be fostered from top to bottom. Culture is from top to bottom. Innovation always starts from bottom up. Having said that, now one of the key lessons which I'm still learning, I do not have full disclaimer. I do not have any of these 10 qualities together myself, but I juggle back and forth between all 10. But one of the first things which I truly believe about myself and any entrepreneur in the industry is they are risk takers. They are not afraid of taking risk, but at the same time they are perceptive. They're curious. They like to imagine things. They have to be persistent. You have to have a goal in mind you are achieving as your next pivot point. Without goal, we become aimless. Hardworking, self-confident, flexible, and independent. These are all, it's not in a rank, it's pretty much 10 different qualities of an entrepreneur, which I'm still learning to have some of that. Because many times you feel in your life you are trying to achieve something and you work so hard towards it, and come to middle of it, you feel like I'm failing at it, or I'm failing. The best advice I give is celebrate your failures, especially the failures which are the most glorious one. Because when you recognize the failure, that's when you can pivot and change the trajectory of where you are heading. If you do not recognize or celebrate your failures, you're going to feel stuck. And the last piece of advice, this is the schema I love the most with any of my team building exercise. Anyone wants to take a guess at what these three words are? Time, money, what's the middle?
Balance.
Balance. And how can you get the balance? People. This is you, your team, everyone around you who supports you. You cannot balance the juggling act of time and money, which are all finite. Doesn't matter whether you win $100 million lottery tomorrow when you become a legal age of playing. It is going to run out. Time is going to run out. The money is going to run out. People are not going to run out. As Josh already mentioned, the relationship is the most important thing. 1 out of 7 are actually the accurate odds of getting a job. That does not mean you have to know someone to get somewhere. What it means is you have to surround yourself with people who are passionate about your journey and wants to take part of your journey and further your career, even if by making one introduction. And balancing act is the most important thing in life to become successful. This is a state of industry, regardless of which industry you are in. Has anyone heard of the industry revolution stages 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, or is this brand new? So let me go over a little background. 1784, when the industry 1.0 revolution happened, which is the age, I apologize for the graphics, this is when the steam, power engine, and weaving loom industry became. Steam changed the way we behaved as a society. That, fast forward 100 years, 1870, that was the mass production industry where the assembly line changed the entire way how we operate as an industry. That was the industry 2.0. 3.0 is all about the internet. This is when 1969 the first internet concept came about, and it's all about automation, computers, electronics. People still believe we are in internet age. No, this is quite old. Fast forward today, this is an age of intelligence. It's not about information anymore. It's not about technology. It's not about computers. It's all about cyber physical systems, Internet of Things, and networks. So it's all about networks and intelligence, which is the industry revolution started roughly, I want to say, 3 to 4 years ago. And we are in active revolution of that industry dynamics right now. What is the promise of future? So since we went through a little bit about my journey, the lessons learned from my journey, and the state of the industry, this is my take-home message. 3 things you want to take away from this. It's all about team. Technology is everywhere. That's the age we live in, and it's all about process. So technology, team, and the process, when you combine these 3, anything is possible. And some of these examples are, as I want to highlight, Josh showed a pretty interesting video about the Microsoft HoloLens. We have a Microsoft HoloLens at our innovation lab too. One of my developer developed a model to use for a physician. Not that any of my physicians are using Microsoft HoloLens. We just did it as an experiment. Case Western University in Ohio, this is their image. They are already using Microsoft HoloLens to educate the medical students. This is how they teach anatomy. It's no longer the paper or media or audio visual. This is how they are teaching anatomy, for the most part integrated with the other traditional methods, to be more perceptive to the individuals who like to see and feel things. And this is so much easier, believe me, than learning anatomy through a cadaver. This is what we had to do in medical school. Many of the kids drop out the fact that they have to see the cadaver, forget about the blood. And that's not how we as a society want to nurture the education based on fear. I think if someone has a fear of something, let's figure out a way to mitigate that. We can't not innovate as an industry and a society. This is an example of just an EHR where you will be just interacting with the magic glass, we call it, rather than a computer in your hand. It's just a magic glass, or something like Alexa, Siri, Watson. They all are in healthcare space. And this is how we take care of the people with the process, where digital health, this is what my expertise and interests are, whether it's a wireless devices, Apple Watch, or anything else. We're going to be able to prevent, predict, manage, diagnose, and cure diseases all at the same time. And that would be my the last take-home message, that anything is possible. Healthcare is not the industry you need to pursue. Anyone can be in the healthcare, and anyone with engineering background. My background was engineering, went into med school, and then went back to the statistics. I'm still figuring out what I want to do when I grow up. Thank you all.